Ladies and gentlemen, I get it. I know that you're tired of hearing that somebody's going to declassify documents, introducing even more facts to support the reality that President Trump was framed and set up. I get it. You're tired. You want some kind of justice that's going to happen imminently. Andrew McCabe, according to John Yoo, according to Matthew Whitaker, according to Ben Witz of Lawfare, who's James Comey's best friend. All of these people, in addition to other publications, are saying that, look, Andrew McCabe met with, his attorneys met with Department of Justice officials, and it's imminent. I get it. You want something to take place. But in the meantime, it is important, even if Lindsey Graham might be playing a game, talking tough and in reality not doing much, it's very important for an establishment figure like Lindsey Graham to continue to ask for declassified documents. Now, William Barr has already declassified this information. He's already declassified this information, and he'll declassify more information for John Durham. But this is just hours back. Trump ally Lindsey Graham urges Attorney General to declassify Russia probe files. Senator Lindsey Graham, a key ally of President, this is CNBC. Sonny Kim. Senator Lindsey Graham, a key ally of President Donald Trump, urged Attorney General William Barr to declassify materials related to the investigation by the Justice Department's Inspector General into alleged violations during the Russia probe. Graham, a chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, is concerned the FBI and Justice Department misled the FISA courts in late 2016 and 2017 to investigate former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page in their reliance on an anti-Trump dossier compiled by British ex-spy Christopher Steele. So that's important, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very, very important. And it's very good news. Just now, actually, about an hour ago, breaking, Paul Sperry, in a new letter to AG Barr, Senate Judiciary Committee Chair Graham demands that exculpatory statements allegedly made by Papadopoulos during covertly recorded 2016 conversations with FBI confidential informant Steph Halper be declassified and released to the public. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the most important, the absolute most important demand or demand for a declassified document. Stephen Halper was specifically implanted or he specifically infiltrated Trump's campaign simply to set up and frame Papadopoulos. He wanted Papadopoulos with a wire to speak to Mifsud. Now, if Papadopoulos had done that, he did the right thing in not doing so. If Papadopoulos had done that, he could have simply said, well, he could have had the wire, Papadopoulos, and then Mifsud could have been like, so, thank you so much for the money. Oh, this is fantastic. All of those wonderful connections you gave me to Putin and the Kremlin and Russia, all of it would be absolute and utter nonsense. He could have quoted the Steele dossier. It would have been absolute and utter nonsense, but you couldn't, if you were Papadopoulos at that point, with an informant telling you to speak to another informant or operative. So Joseph Mifsud is the academic, the Maltese academic who basically was accused of being a conduit to Russia. He wasn't a conduit to Russia. Okay? He wasn't a conduit to Russia. He had more ties to Western intelligence, and he was already seen at the State Department or on Capitol Hill in 2017. They utilized the belief that Joseph Mifsud was an operative. Okay, that's not true. That is not true at all. What they tried to do is set up Papadopoulos and say, well, look, this campaign advisor for President Trump is actually speaking to a Maltese professor about the DNC emails. And this Maltese professor gave him information about the DNC emails. So we had to then continue our investigation. And so they just needed the most absurd excuse. Well, what happened was when they asked Mifsud in the beginning of 2017, what did you talk to Papadopoulos about? He backtracked and he said he never told Papadopoulos anything. He never said anything about the DNC emails or Clinton's emails or anything like that. So it really doesn't matter. And so then you get, all of this took place because Alexander Downer, who should have been hauled off to Congress and testified under oath, which, I mean, the fact that he hasn't already is a travesty. But Alexander Downer, if you're not already falling asleep right now, it's interesting, so pay attention. Alexander Downer, like I've stated a million times, was linked to the Clinton Foundation. If you're an Australian viewer of this channel, give me your thoughts on Downer. So he's an ambassador who went ahead and raised, tens of millions of dollars, something like close to $80 million for the Clinton Foundation. He then gives a tip to the FBI about Papadopoulos allegedly speaking to Mifsud, and Mifsud giving him information about the DNC hack. It's all nonsense. Mifsud said he never gave the information. Nobody bothered to ask if Alexander Downer was lying. Nobody bothered to ask if Stephen Halper was planted within the campaign simply to connect the dots between Mifsud, between Alexander Downer, George Papadopoulos, and Mifsud. What happened with Papadopoulos is that he was set up and framed. So it's very, very important that this take place. If you declassify, if there are already exculpatory statements, if there's evidence that he didn't commit a crime, if there's exculpatory information with Flynn, and there is, almost certainly, because he was set up and framed like Papadopoulos was. We all have to know, and so that's the thing. So this is really interesting. So Lindsey Graham today, ahead of the FISA, the IG report, the FISA IG report. But let's just read the CNBC article. Senator Lindsey Graham. Okay, so Inspector General Michael Horowitz's probe of the Justice Department and FBI's conduct during the FISA warrant process is nearing completion, according to a letter Graham sent to Barr. Graham, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, concerned the FBI misled. So it misled the FISA courts in late 2016 and 2017 to investigate former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. By the way, check out H.A. Goodman's other channel. I have a great segment on the great Randy Quaid. Awesome in the vacation movies, European Vacation or Christmas Vacation and Independence Day and just some amazing movies. A whole bunch of amazing movies. But he is a hardcore Trump supporter, and he's like a force pushing back against just the media insanity. So check that out. But ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, Kingpin. That's Kingpin. It was one of the greatest movies ever. Okay? If you love Spaceballs, Kingpin, The Big Lebowski, then you're my type of person, because those are the greatest movies of all time. But anyway, Step Brothers also was pretty awesome. A lot of great movies. That's Young Frankenstein, any Mel Brooks movie. Anyway, let's just look right here. So Paul Sperry, let's just look at Paul Sperry. Okay, so I'll read that tweet again. Breaking in a new letter to AG Barr, Senate Judiciary Committee Chair Graham demands that exculpatory statements allegedly made by George Papadopoulos during covertly recorded 2016 conversations with the FBI confidential informant Stephen Halper be declassified and released to the public. Stephen Halper, by the way, Stephen Halper was paid close to $1 million by the United States government simply to be an operative. He never testified before Congress. And that's the thing. These people, there are so many people involved with this nonsense that you have to ask yourself, not only was this a setup, but this was an egregious use of state power and authority. You had people deliberately being paid, deliberately being utilized as informants, as chess pieces to set up Trump officials simply because they wanted to create a pretext, a reason, an excuse to continue to engage in this surveillance. That's all. That's the whole thing. That's what's going on here. Lindsey Graham. Okay, so let's go. Lindsey Graham. On Twitter, the Inspector General report is stunning and unprecedented. Okay, rebuke a former director of FBI. Okay, so Republicans have pressed for declassification of FBI and Justice Department documents. It's interesting, too, that Democrats don't want anything declassified. Gee, I wonder why. Why wouldn't you want something declassified? If you had all this government information about the Russia probe, why wouldn't you want things declassified? Wouldn't you want as much information declassified as possible? Of course you would. Of course you would. But that's the thing with Democrats. That's the thing. It's kind of like they don't really care. They don't really care at all. They just want whatever it is. They just want whatever it is that they, the latest propaganda spin, they want that disseminated to the media. They don't want any change in the narrative, and they certainly don't want information from the government, because what they do is they hide behind the media narrative, corrupt intelligence officials. And then they say, well, you just have to trust the government. Then when Republicans, or when President Trump says, or Lindsey Graham in this case, William Barr, please go ahead, declassify everything you have. They say, no. The new information you're just going to spin. We can't have information that isn't sanctioned by us, because you're just going to spin the information. We wouldn't want that. We wouldn't want you to spin the information. So, That's the thing. That's their whole game. The IG report's coming out. Look, there are about 3 things that are going to happen in the next 3 to 4 months. Major things. Andrew McCabe's going to get indicted. Okay? The IG report's going to come out regarding the FISA issues. We're going to find out that Americans were spied on, surveilled illegally and unlawfully. There was never any obstruction of justice. You can't obstruct justice when you're being set up and framed. And the interesting thing also is that, ladies and gentlemen, Clinton is going to run. So Hillary Clinton is going to run for president again. They're not going to go with anyone else. They don't have anyone else. All of this nonsense, this attempt at ousting a duly elected president, everything that we've experienced, this is all because Madam Secretary, the Golden Muumuu, tried to levitate in 2016, but a Trump, the Orange Monster, wouldn't let her. So Trump won, despite being outspent 2-1. Now you're going to have the return. It's going to be 2016 on steroids. All of this, ladies and gentlemen, is going to take place. And it's just you got to enjoy the show, because what's going to eventually happen is Trump is going to win re-election. You're going to have other people indicted, not just McCabe, because there are other people under criminal investigation like James Baker. The more declassified material we uncover, or that William Barr declassifies, the more that John Durham has to indict people under 18 U.S. Code 371, and I talk about that statute in the Federalist. This is actually really important, ladies and gentlemen. I know it sounds boring. I know it sounds like, oh no, we've seen this again. We've seen this. It's not that big of a deal. Nothing's going to happen. But ladies and gentlemen, it is important. And give me your thoughts below. If there's exculpatory evidence declassified that shows that Papadopoulos should never have been framed and set up, then you have the foundation, because they keep saying the Steele dossier, that wasn't the foundation. You have the foundation of the Russia probe completely obliterated. Give me your thoughts below, which it already is, but give me your thoughts below. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel. I have another segment coming up about President Trump, and he's bringing home 5,000 Americans, which is fantastic, which is exactly why I'm voting for him in 2020. Give me your thoughts. If you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below. Thank you.